from beautiful Kauffman Stadium. It is 2020 summer camp. We are 4 days away from opening day. And in the lead up to that, the Royals will play a couple of exhibition games here against the Houston Astros. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the ballpark. We've waited a long time to say that, along with Rex Hudler, who is at least 6 feet away from me to my right. We're so glad to be back with you. And Hud, as always, with everything going on in the world right now, it's nice to be back to give our fans something that seems to bring us all together.
Rhino, it's amazing what we've gone through. The whole world has gone through. But the sport of baseball is a fantastic sport that brings everybody together. It looks like it's going to happen, especially these preseason games. It'll be pedal to the metal. An exciting, eventful year that's going to happen with a lot of strategy involved.
And even though this is an exhibition game, a so-called camp game, both managers are going to treat this like a regular season game. And Mike Matheny has his A lineup in there tonight. There is still some risk for later tonight. In fact, the Astros made a decision this morning. Dusty Baker, first-year manager with Houston, said that they would make a decision this morning as to whether to come to Kansas City or not because of the forecast. But they are here, and here is their great lineup. The Astros last year were third in the league in runs scored. They were third in the league in home runs, and they led the major leagues in OPS. And all they're really missing is last year's Rookie of the Year, Yordan Alvarez, who is their DH. He'll begin on the injured list. And Hud, Mike Montgomery is where he wants to be for the first time in 5 years, a full-time starter.
Better believe it, and he earned it. He looked pretty good last year. He was a good leader for the other pitchers, but also he was able to work his 4 pitches in just very nicely. Now, Matheny wanted all the pitchers to come into camp when they were all stretched out so they could fit different roles, and he's one of them as a starter.
And George Springer takes one in the dirt. The beginning of a new age of leadoff hitters, which used to be a spray the ball around the field type of a guy. This guy can put 1 run on the board with 1 swing, so a pitcher is on high alert with his first pitch of the game.
Yeah, Montgomery, he's going to move that ball around. He's got a nice cutter. It's a very effective pitch for him from both left-handed batters and right-handed batters. Big curve, changeup. It's not going to overpower you. He's a good pitcher. He's going to hit his spots. Veteran guy.
And Springer does not swing the bat. He is on with a 4-pitch walk.
Defensively for the Kansas City Royals, which is their staple, one of them, that and speed. You see Whit Merrifield in center, that's going to be his spot, but I'm sure he'll move around. He's very versatile. Alex Gordon won his 7th Gold Glove in left. Salvador Perez is back. What a breath of fresh air for the Royals to have a veteran backstop like him out there. Alberto Mondesi, there he is at shortstop. Solid defense.
And now Montgomery's missed with the first 5, and that pitch in the dirt will get Springer down to second base.
Wow, yeah, Montgomery, he looks like he's having a hard time settling in.
Mike Matheny is manager of the Cardinals. Mike Montgomery pitched when he was with the Cubs. With the Cardinals, he managed over 1,000 games and 43 postseason games and won the pennant in 2013. There's the first strike, and it's driven into center field. So there's Witt's first chance. That's plenty deep enough for Springer. And the Astros will have a runner at third with 1 out.
Altuve, he looked like he was waiting for that one. That first good pitch. He's an aggressive hitter and does the job. That situation there with a runner at second base and nobody out, he wants to move the runner. And look at the changeup. Okay, changeup on the back 3 fingers slows the ball down, but you see it's elevated. A perfect pitch for a guy to get a sac fly. He's not just any guy. Heck of a player.
And the Royals will bring the infield in for Alex Bregman. And that is a fair ball past Franco. So Bregman drives in Springer, and he'll end up at second base, and the Astros take a 1-0 lead.
Let's see that sidearm delivery actually through low 3/4, and that just catching too much of the plate. Montgomery, he's just trying to throw strikes, and the Astros seem like they're waiting on him. Not overpowering, like I said earlier, as hooks that ball by new third baseman Mike Franco.
And here's Michael Brantley batting in the cleanoff spot. Salvi has to block another one. The Astros won a team record 107 games last year. They won the pennant, and they've had a core group of players together for a long time. Brantley joined the Astros last year, but Brantley, Springer, Reddick, Gurriel are all free agents at the end of this year, and then next year Carlos Correa, Justin Verlander. Who am I missing?
You know, I think you covered them all, but you know,
Zach Greinke.
Yeah, they don't have much time left with their so-called dynasty they've had.
Over the outside edge, 2-1 on Brantley.
I don't know, Brantley's added some quality leadership to them. They're and a solid left-handed bat from that side of the plate, and did a great job last season. Did everything and more than they expected. Ooh.
2-2. The Royals just got Brad Keller back from the injured list, and then they placed Jacob Junis on the injured list. So the starting rotation is the biggest question mark going into opening day on Friday. McBroom will take it to the bag himself. That'll get Bregman to third, and there are 2 down. There's pitching coach Cal Eldred, who is familiar with Mike Matheny. They were teammates. They go back to their college days, both playing in the Big Ten, with Cal Eldred at Iowa and Mike Matheny at Michigan.
Yeah, you know, a perfect fit, Eldred, as he was there last year. But now with the new manager Mike Matheny, these guys, you know, good friends. That's important. You know, camaraderie is very important when it comes to coaching, and especially in a short 60-game sprint like this season. Got to really be together.
That's well hit to center field, and Witt is there to make the play. So the leadoff walk turns into a run. The Astros get one against Mike Montgomery. Alex Bregman's double gives the Astros a 1-0 lead. The Royals will be facing right-hander Lance McCullers Jr. with this lineup, which has a lot more length when you put Salvador Perez back in there batting fifth. Alex Gordon will hit sixth. Maikel Franco, who has 3 20 home run seasons in his career, will bat seventh. Ryan McBroom eighth. So a much stronger bottom of the batting order this year. And here's McCullers, who missed all of last year with Tommy John surgery. So these are his numbers from 2018. That elbow started acting up in August of 2018.
Yeah, you see the 142 strikeouts. I mean, he's got that great curveball. Yeah, nice little fastball, little easy arm action, little 3/4 sidearm delivery. He's got some extra movement on that. He's going to sink it. We talked about his great curve and his changeup as a pretty complimentary pitch here. He'll go about 95 to 98 when he's going good.
Whit Merrifield led the major leagues with 206 hits last year, marking the second consecutive year that he led the major leagues in hits. He goes inside out into right center field. Reddick didn't get a very good break, and he ends up making a sliding play, and Witt is out number 1.
Wow, I thought that was going to fall. Reddick, like you said, he looked at the center fielder, wasn't sure if Springer was going to get to it, and then at the last minute, the veteran put put the burners on and made the play. That would have been a triple for sure. Look at them laughing at each other. Defensively, the Astros are solid. Well, I'll show you Reddick. He's the veteran with a good strong arm in right. You see Springer in center. He can play all outfield positions. They're a very good defensive team as well. Altuve, a second baseman. Man, this guy, he can do it all. Field, hit. He can do everything. And now, speaking of that, so can the batter hitting right here, number 27, Alberto Mondesi. Very similar. A little younger, maybe some fresher legs, but certainly can do those things that Altuve can do: steal and hit for power and get on base, make things happen.
There's that hard curveball. 2 balls and 1 strike. Mondesi had some right groin issues in June and then wrecked his left shoulder in July, which ended up being surgically repaired, and he was probably not going to be ready for opening day had we avoided COVID-19. So we all would have preferred to play more than 60 games this year, but the Royals are going to get some guys at 100% that would not have been if we started on March the 26th.
No question about it. That extra time was great for him, and you used a good word there, and it was appropriate. He wrecked his shoulder on a ball down the line, way past the third base, back into the warning track, landed on his shoulder, a little bit awkwardly on his fielding shoulder, his left side, and popped it out of place.
Gurriel plays the second hop, and much closer than Lance McCullers Jr. was expecting, so he will make a mental note of that. He got a little too casual on that play. There are 2 down.
Talked about the acceleration the young man has, and he almost got him a little routine infield hit. See McCullers, any ball hit by a left-handed bat to the right side of the infield, you got to get over. Look at him with his head down, running hard. It looked like to me he might have beat it. Let's just see if the replay is working. Ah, that is a tie that didn't go with the runner. Good hustle. That's how you do it. Play the game.
So 2 down to Hunter Dozier. Hunter had his breakout season last year. 26 home runs. He had 11 the year before. 84 RBIs. He had 34 the season before.
Health was the key for him. Partner, let me tell you, anytime you get over 500 at-bats in a major league season, you make huge progress, a big jump. And you get all those reps like that, you know, and he stayed within himself. 10 triples was impressive. He showed the Royals that he can go gap to gap and hit for power with 26 big flies.
A little late on that one, still 0-2. And he will begin the year in right field after doing a nice job at third base. The Royals went out and got Maikel Franco, and they want to use some of Dozier's athleticism in the outfield at spacious Kauffman Stadium. But he'll play some third base and some first base this year. Still 0-2.
Versatility he brings is one of the reasons why they could go out and get Maikel Franco that was available from Philadelphia. In fact, that Dozier's a tremendous athlete that could just play just about anywhere on the field. But you mentioned those positions. Those are all big spots for him, and especially for his manager that can pencil him in whenever he needs somebody else needs a break.
Outside at 97. I don't know about you, Hud, but I'm noticing some of the social distancing protocols here, as many of the Royals not only spread out in the dugout, but they're in the Crown Club behind home plate. The Astros have far fewer players here than the Royals do. But there's Brad Keller, I believe that's Danny Duffy with the mask on. Yeah. Ryan Stoneberg, strength and conditioning coach, on the upper right hand part of the screen. They're going to be sitting around the dugouts, in the stands around the bullpen as McCullers as a 1-2-3 bottom of the first inning.
Welcome back to Kauffman Stadium. Joel Goldberg out in left field, and in this pandemic world we're living in, we had a chance to catch up with Mike Matheny via Zoom this morning, and he said now that Salvador Perez, Brad Keller, two bigger name players have gone through the isolation, getting away during the pandemic, it's shown other players that there's a process. Trust that process. Go into isolation, get your work in, and come back. It worked the way it was supposed to. He's happy to have those players back. Guys, as far as Matheny always being upbeat, he said he viewed this time away as a chance to build better trust with those players. He said the foundation of care leads to trust and opportunity. He spent these last few months becoming closer with those players. Guys, will be out here all year long, me and Monty, for pregame and postgame.
All right, Joel, thank you. Good to see you back at the set in left field. There's Ryan O'Hearn, who is technically on a rehab assignment. Carlos Correa hits it out to shallow right. Nicky Lopez goes out to get it. Now, of course, there's no minor league season going on right now, but Ryan O'Hearn was on the COVID injured list. He took batting practice today. He took fielding practice today. He was with the club, so he's been cleared to resume baseball activities, but he's not on the active roster. He is on still the 60-man player pool, but hopefully we'll see Ryan O'Hearn back in the lineup soon.
Yeah, and you know, when you're quarantined like that, you have to find ways to stay in shape. You have to be creative. You have to do your exercises in your room. You have to swing the bat. You got a mirror. You know, there's a lot of different ways. I know Brad Keller, when he was out, he threw a baseball in a big sock. He put it on his arm and he would throw the ball and release it. So he had to find ways to stay tuned, because just like Salvador Perez, he worked really hard during his time when he was away, and that's an advantage to keep these guys and hit the ground running when they get back out there.
Two 2-0 on Josh Reddick. Reddick had surgery on his left shoulder during the offseason. Mentioned he, along with the other two Astros outfielders, will be free agents at the end of this year.
And he found a barbershop. Didn't like his long hair before, but he's got all trimmed up. Good baseball player.
Kind of a late bloomer.
He's a winner. Good spot here by Montgomery. That's exactly where he wants to put that slider. Little cutter on the outside part.
Whit Merrifield has been busy in the first two innings. That is his third put out, and there are two down in the second inning.
Can you hear the polite applause by the crowd here at Kauffman Stadium? I just noticed it.
Well, there was quite a bit of back and forth as to how to deal with no crowd. A lot of teams are going with those plastic cutouts, where at least here in Kansas City, the season ticket holders can make a donation to Royals Charities and have one of their cutouts here. So when the players look toward home plate, that it looks like there's some people in the seats. And then the debate as to whether there should be some crowd noise piped in. And most recently, several managers, including Mike Matheny, want it so the players who will get frustrated from time to time being competitive and playing at the highest level of baseball in the world might want to utter something that's not suitable for everyone's ears. That you don't want to start telling your players, hey, you got to be calm while you're out there. You don't want to take that fight and that emotion away from the player. Mondesi on the left side, and that's a much better second inning for Mike Montgomery. 3 up, 3 down with 2 infield pop-ups. Well, he'll only have 60 games this year, but it'll be interesting to see how Jorge Soler builds on what he did last year.
Wow, just take a look at that swing. That's a grown man taking a hack like that, using his lower half. Well, that's where the power comes from. But that upper chest and the turn in the torso area. Oh man, this guy, he's got everything it takes to be a prolific power hitter. He showed it, stayed healthy. This is the guy they knew they were getting when they traded Wade Davis, an outstanding back-end reliever, a few years ago.
You know, the numbers that we just showed you too, the 48 home runs, 117 RBIs, the most important one that's easily overlooked. He played in every single game last year, either in right field or as the designated hitter.
He and Whit Merrifield, I mean, and they didn't show any signs of fatigue at all either. There was no drag or, oh, it looks like he needs a day off. These guys were sharp.
2-1. The Royals' home run record forever was 36 from 1985 until 2017, when Mike Moustakas hit 38, and then Soler 2 years after that beat it by 10. 3-2.
One of the things that was most impressive about Soler, now the moon shots and the Soler shots that he hit, no question, were long and far, but his plate discipline really stood out. He was able to figure out which pitches he could handle and which ones he could.
We would hear him occasionally, and I imagine we will this year as well with nobody in the crowd, but we would hear him say no at pitches that he didn't think were strikes. I mean, not only just using his eyes, but his mouth to determine what was in and out of the strike zone. Royals feel like he doesn't quite have his timing yet, and he's facing a very good pitcher, so it's not like Lance McCullers Jr. you'd call him a hittable pitcher, but you could tell with his last two swings on a fastball, he's just not quite timed with McCullers.
Ooh.
There's a knee buckler, and McCullers strikes out his second.
McCullers with that big curveball, and there it is, coming from a three-quarter sidearm delivery. Looks like we're just, you see how he really pulls down that torque, and it's enough to freeze a hitter. This kid looks good.
0-1 on Salvador Perez. Has not played in a regular season game since the end of 2018. He had two identical seasons in 17 and 18. Playing in 129 games with 27 home runs and 80 RBIs in each of those 2 years. And then last year in spring training, that strong arm, the ulnar collateral ligament, gave way, and that was the end for him in 2019. 1-2. It has been 659 days since Salvador Perez has played in a regular season major league game. That away, Holtzy.
He looks great.
McCullers has struck out 3 in a row now, going back to the first inning.
Tell you, you can really keep a hitter guessing when you got a 96 to 98 mile-an-hour fastball, and the hitter, to his defense, he has to look for that fastball. That's the best pitch that he's got a chance to hit, most hitters think. And then when he throws that changeup and that big curveball, then that just really messes the hitter's timing up. That's what it's all about, pitching.
.150 games for Alex Gordon last year. He had played in that many since 2014. He drove in 76. He hadn't had that many since 2013.
Well, he found the other side of the field. He found that left field, and that's a key for him. Spray it around, use the whole field.
There's Correa with the overshift. So McCullers strikes out 2 in another 1-2-3 inning, and he has set down the first 6 Royals tonight. Martin Maldonado, who played 74 games for the Royals last year, leads off against Mike Montgomery. It's easy to forget that the Royals got Mike Montgomery from the Cubs for Martin Maldonado, who only played 4 games for the Cubs, and the Cubs got one of their regular catchers back from the injured list, and Maldonado was gone and ended up hooking back up with the Astros. He ended 2018 with Houston.
Yeah, he's a valuable guy, good catch and throw guy, good signal caller.
When he came to the Royals, there was talk about that he had turned down a big contract with the Astros, so the Astros went elsewhere, and Martin Maldonado suddenly was looking for a job, and the timing was right with the Royals right after Salvador Perez went down, and it all turned out well for him. He ended up getting a 2-year deal with the Astros this past offseason. In the air to right, and Dozier is there for the first out. Well, you probably have noticed the patches the Royals are wearing on their sleeves to honor former Royals chairman and owner David Glass, who passed away suddenly on January the 9th, just a couple of months after selling the team to Kansas City and John Sherman and his ownership group. And Mr. Sherman is here at the game tonight. Glass family owned the Royals for 20 years.
What a great family and a great owner. Just my 8 years here, he made me feel like I was in his inner circle. And then at his service, that you did such a great job with, Rhino. I was so proud of you for emceeing that whole thing. I found out that everybody that knew him, they felt like they were in his inner circle.
Yep.
It's the kind of gentleman he was.
Glass family went through a lot during their time here in Kansas City, taking over during the difficult transition from the Kaufman family to the board, and then from the board to the Glass family, and all those 90 and 100 lost seasons, and then suddenly there he was on the stage here at Kauffman Stadium accepting a World Series, or rather an American League Championship trophy in 2014, and then in New York the next year the World Series trophy. As Springer ends up at second base with 1 out, he walked to open the game and then came home on Bregman's double.
Trying to stay on the outside corner, and Springer says, you know what, I can go that way with the best of myself. Great swing. In order to go to the opposite field, you got to wait just a tick longer, and he found that gap. Merrifield was playing him a shade to pull, so he wasn't able to get to it. Good swing. That's called hitting it where it's pitched.
Altuve flied out to deep center field in the first inning. The swing doesn't match the size, at least traditionally, but it works for Jose Altuve, who hit 31 home runs last year. He and Dustin Pedroia are very much alike, whereas you would expect a player of that stature to have more of just a line drive swing, but those two guys in particular swing like they're 6'4", 250 pounds.
Yep. It's one of the many beautiful things about the game of baseball. You don't have to be big to play it. You have to have a big heart. That's all that matters. Got to have a great work ethic, no question about it. He does. Another young a player that was not real big in physical stature was David Eckstein, two-time World Series champion. Good pitch there, skip away from him. It's all about location. Good spot off the plate.
So Springer's at second with 2 down. Alex Bregman against Montgomery in the first inning doubled, and that drove in Springer. Bregman jumped on Montgomery's first pitch and doubled up the left field line, and this time around Montgomery goes off speed. Bregman hit 41 home runs and finished second to Mike Trout for American League Most Valuable Player. And he's another guy that doesn't scream 40 home runs when you walk by him.
They're going to go down and get that. That lower half, he drops it. He's got great leverage. He's got a big strike zone. I mean, he's up there to swing. Doesn't have to be right down the middle. Look at those pitches are a little bit up, a little bit down. Goes with him. His power, he's a pull hitter, no doubt, and it's a short porch there in Houston, but he's some kind of player. Being second to Mike Trout is no slap in the face. He had a heck of a season.
And like a lot of smaller players, Bregman plays with a chip on his shoulder. I love the story about his number. He wears number 2 because he was the 2nd overall pick in the 2015 draft, and that still bothers him that he wasn't the 1st overall pick. That's why he wears number 2. Dansby Swanson was the 1st round pick. In college, when he was at LSU, he wore the number 30 because all 30 teams passed on him in the 1st round. So he does not forget. And he plays it very well. Back to the middle, and the Royals are right on that defensively with Lopez behind second base. So the Springer double does not turn into a run. The Astros lead 1-0. Here are some of the many rule changes. First of all, the schedule. The Royals will play 40 games in the division and then 20 against the National League Central. Both leagues use the DH. Extra innings will now begin with a runner at second base and nobody out. Another rule that was already going to be in play. Relief pitchers must face at least 3 batters unless that relief pitcher ends the inning. Teams will be allowed with the COVID situation to travel an extended roster in the event that somebody goes down on a road trip. They can make some very quick roster decisions. Michael Franco lifts it out to left field, and Brantley makes the play. Spelled differently, but both guys pronounce their first name Michael. And now Lance McCullers, who has retired the first 7.
Yeah, really interesting, Rhino, the different rule changes that are in place. And I think this is the year that they need to try anything they can, anything they want to try. It's just a short 60-game season. Hopefully we never see another season like this in the rest of our history here, but it's a good time to try things out. For me, I like it. They want to shorten the game. They want to keep the players off the field, put the runner at second base in the 10th inning, go ahead and see what happens. Yeah. Last few years in the minor leagues, it's worked, and it's worked really well.
Ryan McBroom, who's had an excellent spring and summer camp, hits the first hit for the Royals. And HUD, I will add to that, I also hope we never see a year where the players and the owners argue so publicly like they did this year. And one of the most unfortunate results of all that was the expanded postseason, which I think would have been a lot of fun. an experiment to see what it would be like to have more teams in the pennant race at the end of the year, more teams in the playoffs. But without an agreement, we are back to the existing playoff format. That is just foul, and a shot by Nicky Lopez.
We'll continue to be hopeful for baseball, but Rhino, there was a few times I shed tears this winter over some different things, but one of them was the cancellation of the minor league season.
Yeah,
that was really hard to take. Being a 10-year minor leaguer myself, I needed every one of them years to get my 10 years in the majors, and let me tell you, a lot of these kids' dreams have been squashed because they're out this year, and they lost a lot of jobs.
And if there was a silver lining in all that, we were all very proud to work for the Royals, and we found out that Mr. Sherman and the ownership group, with the suggestion of Dayton Moore, paid all the minor league players through the month of August. The season goes through the month of August, sometimes into the first couple days of September. And there were some teams who had said they would not pay minor league players past May or whenever, but change course after the Royals made their decision.
It's all about integrity. Therefore, a lot of baseball personnel want to work for the Royals.
Nicky is down on strikes, and McCullers has struck out 4, and he's looking good.
Lopez had a good at-bat going there until he pulls out the changeup, and that just ruins everything. Look at how that pitch starts in the middle, ends up going away. It's the way they hold the ball, and they come out. It comes out of the same arm action as the fastball at 98. Is a fuller pitch. It's a trick pitch, and it's a tough pitch to command. But once at this level, these guys have it. That's what makes them so good.
McBroom is at first for Merrifield, who lined to right, which required a sliding play by Josh Reddick. Without Lance McCullers last year, the Astros had the second best ERA in the American League. Only Tampa Bay had a lower ERA, and they had the fewest walks in the American League. Now they have a big hole to fill with Garrett Cole going to the Yankees. Cole could have won the Cy Young Award. It was very close, and the award eventually went to Justin Verlander, another Astros pitcher. There's Brent Strom, who spent a couple of years here as Royals pitching coach and is now the longtime Astros pitching coach.
You know, he's been a pitching coach and a pitcher in a lot of different decades in Major League Baseball, and he's learned the analytics. He's way up on that and everything, and one of the best pitching coaches there are in the game.
Witt, just like Jorge Soler, played in all 162 last year. It's a heck of a year. He had the 206 hits. He extended a hitting streak from the year before, which ended up being a Royals record 31 games in a row. He got his first grand slam last year, and he became just the second right-hand hitter in baseball history to lead the major leagues in hits in back-to-back years. Whit Merrifield and Hall of Famer Kirby Puckett are the only right-hand batters in the history of baseball to lead both leagues in hits in back-to-back years.
Wow, that's amazing. And the reason it's so amazing is that you get a lot of right-handed pitchers in baseball facing right-handed batters, these guys, and the ball's breaking away from them. It's much more difficult to hit the ball going away from you than it is coming into you if you're on the left side of the plate. So that's what makes it impressive about right-handed batters.
There's a base hit into right field, and with 2 outs, McBroom was running. He'll go first to third. So the Royals were 0 for 7 tonight against Lance McCullers, and now 2 for their last 3.
Well, you got the right man at the plate here. Watch this. He's just gonna. He sees the runner going. He sees a pitch up and away. Why? He's not gonna pull it. Whit Merrifield goes line to line. He's a very heady, smart hitter and very mentally tough. He knows exactly what he wants to do there. He saw the hole there. McBroom able to go. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see Whit try to steal a base here, but he might just wait for Mondesi to drive him in. Can do a lot of things with Whit at the plate. Situations. Bunt. Hit to the right side. And we saw Whit bunt to keep the streak alive. That might have been the last hit he got. Was a first game. Was a drag bunt down the third base line, and what we see in today's modern game, a whole lot of bunting. I mean, not a whole lot of bunting, but whenever you do see one, it's like, wow, look at that. He got on base. Nice job.
And he just had a little chat with Damon Hollins, who's going to coach first base this year for the Royals. Rusty Kuntz was returning to the field, and his spot at first base and outfield coach and base running coach, but he is going to be an advisor this year. So Damon Hollins, who is very much up and coming in the Royals organization as an instructor, will take over at first. So Rusty will be spending the season up in the booth. There's his son Kevin, who also works for the Royals. How about that? Father and son taking in the baseball season together.
It's fantastic.
One and two on Mondesi. With 1 out, McBroom went to the opposite field and singled. And with 2 outs, Merrifield went to the opposite field and singled.
Mondesi, a .296 hitter with a runner in scoring position last season. He uses the whole field as well.
Into left field and right at Brantley. So that'll do it. The Royals strand 2. And at the end of 3, the Astros lead 1-0.
They'll receive a long sleeve performance tee, lunchbox backpack, special edition socks, 2 home game ticket vouchers good for the 21 season, and more. All for only $30. Packages are available for delivery now at Royals.com/Blue Crew or in person at the Royals team store as an out.
Michael Brantley is 0 for 2 against Mike Montgomery. The Astros got their run in the first inning. Bregman doubled in Springer. Yuli Gurriel has lined to center field. Good backdoor breaking ball. Mike Matheny was saying before the game tonight that when Montgomery is right, he is able to expand the strike zone, which means he is able to get hitters to chase pitches that are either right on the edge or outside of the strike zone. And anytime the home plate umpire will give him that call, that helps his cause. That was up, and you got Gurriel to chase it. Still 1-2.
Montgomery, he's starting to settle in a little bit. That first inning, he was a little bit erratic trying to find a strike zone, but you know, he's a finesse pitcher who needs all the corners like you mentioned earlier, but with his 4 pitches, he can do it.
Had him reaching, and Franco slings it over to first, and McBroom looked like he was thinking about coming off the bag and applying a tag, and it's off of his glove.
Ball wasn't hit all that hard. Franco coming in didn't really have a great grip on it, and whenever you throw from underneath like that, the ball has a tendency to sail, and that's what happened to him.
It is an error on Franco, and to your point, Hud, if he could do it again, he might have set his feet and come over the top.
Yeah, when you don't get the initial grip you want, sometimes you travel. We call it traveling, like basketball. But if you can't get the grip, you got to shuffle the feet. Sometimes that messes up everything. But he's played a lot of third base. He's pretty solid. It's not the first time he's made a play like that.
Correa popped out to Lopez at second base in the second inning. Carlos Correa, like every player, is hoping for a healthy season, especially this year with it being an abbreviated season. Remember, he had that bizarre injury last year where he went on the injured list because of a cracked rib after a massage.
You got to put that in a characteristic injury of the weirdest injuries only in baseball.
He fired that masseuse.
Wow.
And then ended up having some low back issues later in the season. But yeah, that's one of the all-timers.
Whew.
That's upstairs. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And down he goes. And Montgomery strikes out his second. Let's go to Joel.
Well, Ryan, you guys were showing Rusty Kuntz and Kevin Kuntz before. Had a chance to visit with Rusty and Mitch Meyer, the last 2 first base coaches of this team. There you see Rusty and Kevin had the masks on before. They're the only ones in there now. So I got to visit, and I said to Rusty, okay, you've been watching a lot of this. There's Mitch. Who is someone that stood out? And before I could finish that sentence, he said Bobby Witt Jr. Mitch agreed with that. They said that there are a lot of nights in these intra-squad games where Bobby Witt was hands down the best player on the field. 5 tools every single night. And then Rusty dreaming a little bit, saying he's not going to be the next one, but he said he reminded me a bit of a young Robin Yount. But Robin Yount was younger than Bobby Witt at this point when he made it to the big leagues. He said it also helped. Mitch pointed out that those minor leaguers didn't get very much action at all at spring training because they come later, and then of course everything was finished and postponed. He said, but Witt was able to go back home to the Dallas area where there's so many professional players that live and see live pitching 95, whatever it was, every single day. He came here locked in. They are really excited, both of those guys, about Bobby Witt Jr. By the way, I'm about a booth over from Rusty right now. I could hear his excitement on every play.
Josh Reddick cranks it to right field, and Dozier is at the fence, and Josh Reddick, it's a 2-run home run, and the Astros take a 3-0 lead in the 4th inning.
Reddick, he didn't get all this ball. Looked like he hit it off the end of the bat a little bit at 89. He supplied a lot of the power. See how he pulls his hands in a nice, good level swing, but he got up under it just enough, and it's a little slight breeze blowing out there might have helped him some, but had enough to get it out. Good swing. Back to Joel's point, coming to some of the inter-squad games this past week, watching Bobby Witt Jr. I'd have to do a double take. I think his number was 90 or one of those high numbers like that. But I had to do a double take and say, who is this guy? And he fought a ball off of Rich Hill that came up in on him and jammed and broke his bat, and he knocked in a couple of runs. I mean, he just was impressive. I don't think I saw him get less than 2 hits in a game. He had 2, 3 hit games. Every night he was just laying the ball out and hitting it hard. So that's a great future the Royals have with this young man, wherever they decide to put him.
Danny Duffy called him the greatest hitter of all time.
It's because he wore Duffy out. These guys been facing each other enough now. The last 2 weeks, they got a book on each other.
3-1 on Aledmus Diaz, who was an all-star shortstop for Mike Matheny in St. Louis 4 years ago. That is upstairs for a walk. That's Montgomery's second. You know, another thing, you were talking about Joel's point with Bobby Witt Jr., which I think most people would agree that his being with the 60-man player pool is just to keep him active, not necessarily have him ready for this season. But if you were ever going to break in a young player into the big leagues, and if you felt like he was physically ready and you felt like he was emotionally ready, this would be the year, because there's nobody in the seats. And you take one big element of pressure off of that player's plate. And this is like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to maybe get a guy up here when you think maybe he might need another year of seasoning.
A lot of truth to that. You know, did a lot of playing over my 21 years in spring training and B games, and they start at 9 o'clock in the morning. And some of the stadiums we were in were big stadiums in spring training, and there was nobody there. And you know, the adrenaline got you up enough just to face another major league player. That was enough to get you motivated to play, but there was, you took the element out of the pressure from the fans. And then once you get to the majors as a player, and you play for the first time in front of 30, 40, 50,000 people, that adds a lot. I remember in the on-deck circle, in a pressure situation, I was literally shaking just because of the crowd, and they say some unkind words to you sometimes when you're in the on-deck circle.
I know you say that, you know, half jokingly, but you don't have to worry about that this year.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. To your point, eliminate that pressure, and that's a big pressure for a lot of young players.
Maldonado flied out to right field in the third inning. Salvi tried to bring it back closer to the strike zone. Maldonado won a Gold Glove right in the middle of Salvador Perez's run of winning Gold Gloves. Maldonado did that with the Angels back in 2017.
Yeah, he threw out something like 40% of runners, some unbelievable mark.
And that is jolted to left field, and the Astros have a pair of 2-run home runs in this fourth inning. And all have come with 2 outs. And remember, there was an error in the inning, the throwing error by Franco. Otherwise, Montgomery had a great shot of having a 1-2-3 inning, but Reddick and Maldonado have hit 2-run home runs, and it's 5-0.
You can see that 88-mile-an-hour fastball looked like a cutter that just didn't get in where he wanted it. Maldonado beat it to him.
So that'll do it for Mike Montgomery, and that's Kevin McCarthy jogging in from the Royals bullpen. Mike Montgomery gives up 5 runs, 1 earned because of the error in this inning, but he's not feeling very good about that right now. Here's StatCast powered by Google Cloud. This is Josh Reddick.
Just snuck over the right field wall. I mean to tell you, he'll take it. Maldonado got a cutter inside right on his barrel. Good form, nice follow through. He's got some pop. Just showed it to you. Good hips flying open. Hands coming through next. Perfect spot. Good balance.
So Kevin McCarthy, a reliable reliever for the Royals the last 2 years, got off to a very slow start last year and spent a chunk of time at AAA Omaha, but then was back to his normal self when he returned. He's usually among the league leaders in ground ball percentage with his sinking fastball.
And he's got a good one. There it is right there. It is hard. And you know, when hitters hit that sinker, a good one, it's like, it feels like they hit a shot put or a lead ball off the end of their bat. I mean, a good sinker is a great weapon to have, especially if you have a good defensive infield. He's got a slider to complement it, and he's mixing in some changeups. Last season, he discovered that the changeup can work well against lefties.
Three and one on Springer. He opened the game with a 4-pitch walk, and then he went to second on a wild pitch. He scored the first run on Bregman's double, and then he doubled in the third. And Springer walks for a second time tonight.
Royals have 2 more exhibition games after tonight, and you can see both right here. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, Astros and the Royals, and Wednesday at 3 p.m., the Royals versus the Cardinals. Both games on Fox Sports Kansas City and streaming on Fox Sports Go. Won't you join us? We got big league ball.
Low to Altuve, which is not easy to accomplish. He has flied to deep center, and he is struck out. McCarthy got a glove on it, and in fact lost his glove, but he has time to get Altuve, and that's the inning. But the Astros hit a pair of 2-run home runs to make it 5-0.
Tickets for Royals Bay 21. Place your deposit now so you can enjoy all the season has to offer. Visit Royals.com/STM or call 816-504-4040 option 2 for more details.
Martin Maldonado with Josh Reddick hit the 2-run home runs in the 4-run top of the 4th. And now they're back out on defense behind Lance McCullers Jr., who has given up just a couple of singles in his first 3 innings. He has struck out 4, 2 with his fastball, 2 with his curveball. And he got Dozier swinging in the bottom of the 1st. It'll be Dozier, Soler, and Perez, and those 3 in a row over 2 innings all struck out against McCullers.
And he's hitting his spots. He's got all of his pitches working the way he wants it to right now. Very smooth, compact delivery, Lance McCullers Jr. He's got that mid-90s. He's even going a couple of ticks above mid-90s with his fastball. And from the 3/4 arm slot, that makes the ball have a little bit different movement to the hitter, especially to righties. The ball bores in on him. And his nice big overhand curveball and his changeup, he's putting it exactly where he wants it.
There's his changeup, and he has struck out 5.
That's a beautiful pitch right there. Let's check him out. So far, so good for Lance McCullers Jr., who missed last year with Tommy John. He came back. See, there's the riding fastball. There's the overhand curve. It's a beauty. And another fastball and a changeup. See how this ball moves away from the hitter? All you can do is look at it. Really good. So when you put a good pitching staff, starting staff together like the Astros have, along with their tremendous offense, no wonder they're winning every year.
He had a little role, you could say, in the Royals' 2015 championship season. And we remember Game 4 in Houston when the Royals had one of their many spirited comebacks. 1-2 on Soler. The Royals were down by 4 going into the 8th inning. They came back and won. We had that tremendous Game 5 here. Lance McCullers Jr. started Game 4 in Houston and pitched very well. He gave up 2 runs and 6 1/3. He struck out 7, and the Astros were on their way to win the game in the series. But the Fox network toward the end of the game caught him in the dugout, just encouraging his players with doing the forefinger across the neck, the slashing the throat.
Oh, right.
Remember that?
I remember.
And some of the Royals saw that in the clubhouse when it was being replayed, and not to say they wouldn't have won that game without it, but they were not happy with that, and it fired them up, and they came back and ended up winning Game 4. But that's a little piece of fabric in that
no doubt
2015 quilt, if you will.
Oh, no question about it.
And as far as we know, and as far as we heard, that Lance McCullers, whose father was a big leaguer, meant no disrespect by it. It was just kind of an inside thing with that Astros team that year, but the timing was not ideal.
Well, you know what? You got to really be careful, especially in games of that magnitude. You don't want to wake the opponents up. And the Royals went on and won their 2nd World Series title in their history.
Salvi hooks it into the corner and gone into the seats. And the recorded crowd roars for Salvi as he rounds the bases.
Man,
that's the first extra base hit tonight for the Royals.
Yeah, and instead of the high five from the third base coach, Salvi just gave him a little salute. That's it. Watch him. He just takes that little changeup down that's down and in. You see how he's holding it there. That ball's coming in, and that's right in his wheelhouse. He just snap hooked that little 2-iron he used. 4. Of course, there's nobody in the seats.
Boy, Dave Holtzman is in mid-season form. He just informed me that Salvi hit a home run off of McCullers in that Game 4 in Houston.
Did he? So good to see Salvi back.
Alex is all smiles. He is 0 for 1. Two balls, 1 strike. If memory serves, in that big 8th inning in Houston, Morales was the one who hit the ground ball that got past Correa, but I think it was Alex who put the Royals in front, I think with an RBI ground out. Then Hosmer hit that big home run in the 9th inning. One of the most exciting innings I've ever been a part of.
Oh man,
I mean that place was a madhouse. It was loud, the roof was closed, and then suddenly it was like a library. I mean, the people were just stunned.
Oh.
And you talk about what you can hear when there's no people in the crowd.
Right.
You could hear the Royals dugout roaring. It was so quiet during that inning.
Man. Check it out. He loads those hips up. There is Salvador Perez. He's back.
Royals are on the board with the Salvador Perez home run against Lance McCullers Jr. The Astros have 2 home runs. Josh Reddick has a 2-run shot. So does Martin Maldonado. And Kevin McCarthy, who got the last out of the 4th for Mike Montgomery, pitches to Alex Bregman in the 5th. We were talking about the great Royals Astros series. Great if you're a Royals fan. Back in 2015 in the division series, which obviously was heartbreaking for the Astros, but a lot of things went right for the Astros after that point. Out to Mondesi, and Bregman is out, number 1. The Astros won their first ever World Series in 2017. They won 100 games. They won 100 games in 2018. They had a team record 107 wins last year. They had a 2-0 lead in the 7th inning in Game 7 of the World Series with the Nationals, and nothing has gone right for them since.
Ooh.
Washington scored 3 in the 7th. They won the World Series, and then of course the cheating scandal during the offseason. A.J. Hinch, who played for the Royals, was fired. So was Jeff Luhnow, their general manager, and many believe Dusty Baker, who has 22 years of managerial experience, is just the perfect fit for the turmoil the Astros find themselves in right now.
Absolutely. When they hired him, I thought to myself, wow, there's not a more qualified manager to babysit these young guys and help them through this whole thing with his experience, his intellect. You know, he's won the players over for sure. And you know what? He didn't come in and say, all right, we're going to do it my way. He came in and just said, hey, look, he watched, he observed, you know, and he relied on the coaches who have been there. And then once you do that, then there's a trust system that sets in, and now he's right where he wants to be to open this season. The players all love him, and he's like a father to them.
You know, it's easy to forget what he's done as a manager. I mean, he has done nothing but win. I mean, he's an excellent manager in San Francisco. You were with him one spring training as a player, went to a World Series with the Giants. He was with the Cubs, the Reds, the Nationals, and you know, he's such a classy guy and always has been. There's a base hit for Brantley. He will not run on Alex Gordon. I'm sure it was painful for him to watch the Nationals win the World Series without him, because he was such a big part of that franchise. His last 2 years with Washington, he won 95 games and 97 games. Wow. And then was fired because they were knocked out of the first round in those 2 years. But we showed you his overall numbers. He has over 1,800 wins, 55 postseason victories over 9 years of taking his team to the postseason. That is a very accomplished manager in the Astros dugout.
Sure enough. And I go back to his playing days, watching him, you know, as I grew up in Central California, and he was with the Dodgers out there watching him play. I mean, you know, and they say he invented the high five even as a player. I mean, that's pretty impressive. But you know, you mentioned I got to play for him. Yeah, when I came back from Japan for the '94 season, the Giants hired me to play for him, and he let me go with a week to go in spring training, and I had an injury and I wasn't able to play up to my capabilities. But he calls me into the office, and he's standing up behind his desk, and I sit down and I could read the body language. It didn't look good, and he goes, Hud, I know you're about ready to have your first child any day now, but this is bad news for you, but we're going with a younger player. And I remember I looked at him and I said, Bake, thanks for having me on your team. I got to play for you. I think you're a fantastic manager. I got to meet Willie Mays, Orlando Cepeda, and Vida Blue. Those are my heroes when I was a young kid growing up. Thanks for having me. And he shook his head and says, dang, kid. So the GM goes, hey, well, will you work for me when you're done playing? So I said, is this a fire and hire meeting? But anyway, he let me go. I signed with the Angels, and ironically had my best years as a major leaguer the next 3 years. But it's just a real pleasure to play for a classy guy. And when you said classy, when you hear somebody say he's a classy guy in baseball, that means the exact word. Thinks of others before himself.
Didn't he famously tell you that if you didn't throttle it back, that you were going to hurt yourself or somebody? Or what would he say?
He was a hitting coach for the Giants before he became a manager, and I was a player for the Cardinals. And I played, you know, 2 times, 3 times a week, so I was a little out of control. And he pulled me aside for spring training. Pulled me aside before a game one time when the Giants were in St. Louis, and he goes, "Hey kid, you need to slow down." And I looked at him. I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're going to hurt yourself, or you're going to hurt somebody else really badly. You need to slow down." And I'm looking at him. I respected him as a player so much, and I was like, man, Bake, you played hard. He goes, yeah, but I wasn't out of control. You're a little out of control. That night, I slide into second base. Late, I busted the second baseman's finger. I went to third base, and I blew my knee out. Same play.
Deep left field, and Alex is at the fence. He makes a nice play on Yuli Gurriel. And I guess the moral to your story, Hud, is that karma remains undefeated.
And Dusty Baker knows his stuff. For that to happen that night was amazing. I slid in third base underneath Matty Williams' legs, and I got up quick to look for the umpire's call. He lost his balance and he fell on my knee, and I heard it pop. And I got up and pushed Matty Williams off my body, and he thought I wanted to fight him. And I just told him, man, you need to lose some weight. And he laughed. But Dusty Baker, he was right. I was out of control. I had to learn how to play under control, and that was a tough thing for me because I was such a hustler, and I had a lot of speed. And I played a couple times a week, so it was really hard to kind of calm down. If I played every day, it would have been a different thing. But
so you were the wild horse long before Yasiel Puig came around, huh?
No question. I wish I had his talent. That might be playable. I guess not. And you know what's weird too? Rhino's sitting here watching this empty ballpark is the foul balls that are going into the stands, they're sitting there on the ground, and it's driving me crazy. I want to go pick one of them up.
If you do, you might be tackled by somebody in a hazmat suit.
Okay, so here's what happened. We're in the inter-squad games last week. It's my first game I've been to. I'm sitting down in the lower bowl, and there's nobody in the stands, and I'm freaking out because I've never been in a situation like this at a big league game at the K. And the foul balls are falling, and I get up and I go pick them up, and I was going to throw them back.
Oh, you can't do that.
Yeah, there was a voice that said, "You touched it. They don't want it." And I went, "Oh, you're right. Got my germs on it. They don't want the ball back." It was weird. They told me to stay in my seat. So it was my first day back, and I feel like a little kid, and I'm in trouble. But it's hard. I mean, this is really, really different with nobody here.
I mean, this is an exhibition game, and yet it's still hard to imagine that this is what a regular season game is going to be like. There's just empty seats as far as the eye can see. Correa strikes out. McCarthy has a scoreless top of the 5th inning. And we're halfway done at Kauffman Stadium. The Astros lead 5-1.
Back at Kauffman Stadium, the 2020 health and safety protocols extended dugout and bullpen spacing. We've seen that. No spitting. Pitcher may carry a small wet rag. They've got their own rosin bags out there. And so they are all getting used to so many of these changes. Can't have the first and third base coaches. They've got to be at a distance. They're wearing those masks. It looked like it was maybe pushed a little bit on another game the other night, but I suppose everybody is learning. So health and safety protocols. Guys, what's been really impressive to me is Michael Franco right up the middle is the way Mike Matheny and his coaching staff have been wearing those masks every single moment, trying to set that example. Guys have choices, but they've really led the way. Another group that I want to talk about, and we've spent so much time over the years raving about the effort of Trevor Vance and his grounds crew. I talked to Trevor today. He said, you know, a lot of long days for the crew, and you know, they've never seen anything like this before. 60 players on the field throughout the course of the day in July. He said that they were able to add batting cages out to the bullpens, netting out there to allow hitting out there. The grounds crew was able to build a mound out on the Little K so that Cal Eldred could go out there and do some stuff with the pitchers. And he said, Trevor said that, you know, in those April and May months, they were able to just have their guys come in on different shifts so that they weren't together all the time, having to social distance. And then he said that here in July, as they really needed to ramp it up June into July, they started having his staff come in and work 3 12-hour shifts per week just to be able to get this field ready. You'll notice no patterns on the field. He said that the grass, it grows better, it holds up longer without those patterns. But as soon as the team heads out of town to St. Louis, Cleveland, and on that road trip, they'll add those patterns in for opening day. So we'll see those when the team comes back for the home opener at Kauffman Stadium. And Trevor, you know, he never misses a beat, guys. He says it's the best that the field has ever looked in July. I can't really be too upset with that.
You know, we're so accustomed to those checkered patterns out there, but I actually like it better this way. I mean, I'm glad it's better for the grass, but it's just nice just to see, you know, a nice green pasture out there. to the left side. Bregman to Altuve over to Gurriel, so that erases Franco. McBroom is 1 for 2.
McCullers, he'll take that. Like a breaking ball. He's able to pull it, and Bregman with a good feed to Altuve right where he wants it. That's routine. Save the pitch count.
And he hasn't had a 20-pitch inning yet. The only run he's given up was a home run to Salvador Perez in the 4th inning. He's allowed 1 run, 4 hits. And that's inside to Nicky Lopez, who took a called 3rd strike in the 3rd inning. Nicky played in 103 games last year for the Royals.
I think a lot of Royals coaches knew that Nicky Lopez was going to be an impact player, and he has been. He's shown that he can play up at the middle defensively, and he can handle the bat. First time through, he got a lot of base hits to the opposite field. Then the league figured him out, started pounding him in, and then he said, all right, I'll start turning on you. So he started pulling the ball. I think he only had 1 prolonged slump last year, but this guy uses the whole field, and he's a winning type player.
2-2. He didn't quite go to 9 eggs for breakfast every day, but he talked to Witt about putting on some weight, some productive weight during the offseason, and I noticed a difference in some balls that he was hitting with authority to right field.
He's been swinging a lot more aggressively here during the summer camp.
Gurriel to McCullers. So the Royals get a leadoff single, but they bat only 3 in the bottom of the 5th. It's coming up on Friday right here on Fox Sports Kansas City. Our pregame coverage will begin at 5:30. The Royals will face the Indians, and it will be Danny Duffy against Shane Bieber. It's also streaming on Fox Sports Go. The Royals will begin the year on the road. They'll play 3 in Cleveland and then 4 in Detroit. And then we'll be back for the home opener here against the White Sox. This is Tyler Zuber, who had a heck of a year last year at both Wilmington and Northwest Arkansas with a combined 1.79 ERA. Gave up only 34 hits and 55 in the 3rd innings and 68 strikeouts. And his first pitch is lined to right. Unfortunately, right at Hunter Dozier. 1 pitch and 1 down.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Zuber, he's a lot like Altuve or some of the smaller players in stature, but this guy here, man, he's listed at 5'11", but he's got a 91 or 97 mile-an-hour fastball, a big curve, and a slider and a change. He's got all 4 pitches, but he's very deceptive, throwing from the far third base side of the pitching rubber, and he's really tough. He can strike get batters out. He's got 4 nice pitches.
Kyle Tucker is going to pinch hit for Aledmus Diaz. And 2 pitches and 2 outs. Both balls are hit hard, but right into the defense. Zuber is out of Arkansas State. The Royals took him in the 6th round in 2017.
This kid has a chance. They like him.
And this was before Greg Holland was reacquired by the Royals, but early in his career that was an early comparison because of his size and his mentality and his stuff. Tyler Zuber and Greg Holland, it's a pretty good comparison.
Sure is. Zuber would be proud of that.
Dustin Garneau is going to hit for Martin Maldonado. Maldonado had one of the 2-run home runs in the Astros 4-run 4th. Dustin Garneau, not to be confused with Justin Morneau. They are not related.
Okay, we saw Maldonado go deep over the Royals bullpen.
Two batters before that, Josh Reddick had hit a 2-run home run against Mike Montgomery. Off of his foot. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Fastball at 95.
Check it out. Short, compact delivery. He goes back and picks up his rosin bag.
You got to take it with you.
And it ain't a souvenir either. Help bring Fisher House to Kansas City by bidding on unique and exciting items in the Royals Charities Diamond of Dreams online auction, presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas City. Bid on items like lavish vacations or a Bo Jackson autographed memorabilia. Explore all the available items and place your bids at royals.com/Diamond of Dreams or by texting Royals to 74121. Bidding closes at 9 o'clock on Sunday, July 26th. So get those bids in.
Here's a good name for a pitcher, Cy Sneed. He pitched in 8 games for the Astros. He'll come on in the 6th inning and get the top of the order.
Cy Sneed, check him out. Last year he got his feet wet in the major leagues. Got a nice beard that his former teammate Keuchel would love, and some of his other bearded friends there. But he's got a good fastball. 89 and 94 mile an hour with some late life to it, and a split finger. So he's got a fastball split finger combination. He'll set hitters up with that fastball there, and then he'll drop the splitty on them. See if he uses it.
Witt lined to right in the 1st inning and then singled to right in the 3rd. So he went to the opposite field twice against McCullers. One ball, 2 strikes.
Remember Evan Gaddis, the big power hitter that had the huge beard? He would be proud of Sneed's beard here. Cy Sneed.
He lives in Alaska during the off season, so that probably comes in handy.
Yeah.
Loves the cold weather.
How about him?
He is an avid outdoorsman and hunter. He has a friend who owns a lodge in Alaska, so that's where he hangs out during the winter months. I wonder how many big league players go to Alaska for the winter months, but he just, as the story goes, he throws a baseball into an old mattress to keep up his arm strength during the winter.
How about that?
Who was the guy? Remember the April Fool's story on Sports Illustrated? And they had a guy in Alaska through 112 miles an hour. Remember that?
Yeah.
What was his name? They had a big story on him and ended up being an April Fool's joke.
Are you sure you're not talking about our
Sid Finch?
Sid Finch.
Remember that? I
thought you were talking about one of Steve Physiok's books he's writing.
And this is the best part. He drives every year. He drives from Alaska to Florida for spring training.
Oh, wow.
10 days, 5,000 miles.
What?
10 hours of driving every day.
I like this guy. Baseball needs characters like him. Look at that 94, and we saw some of that split finger. It looks like a big curveball. Oh yeah.
He drives to Idaho. That's his first stop. That's where his family is. So that's the first stop from Alaska to Idaho to see family and friends. 2-2. Then he drives to Oklahoma City to visit his brother and to work out.
Whew, that's a long drive.
Then he drives to Dallas Baptist. That's where he went to college.
Okay.
for a few days, and then he drives to West Palm Beach for spring training. That's his regular off-season.
Okay, now he's got to spend one night in a hotel from Dallas to West Palm Beach. He got to stay one night in a hotel. That's pretty good though. 5,000 miles. He's got some free lodging.
Have you ever been to Alaska?
I never have. Have you?
No.
Love to go.
I lived in Minnesota for 9 years. You,
Okay.
you test out of Alaska if you do that.
Okay.
Well, we were talking about his beard, and HUD was saying that that would make Dallas Keuchel proud. We're going to see a lot of Dallas Keuchel. The White Sox signed a lot of players during the offseason, including Dallas Keuchel and Yasmani Grandal. They give him a huge contract to be their catcher. Edwin Encarnacion stays in the division. So here's are some of the additions to teams in the AL Central. Of the 60 games, 40 for the Royals will be against the AL Central. The other 20 will be against the NL Central.
It's going to go fast.
Ouch.
Oh.
And that's not what a player wants to do in the remaining days before opening day. Did Mike Matheny in his Zoom call today, he was asked about how much his regulars would be playing, and he said they want to play the whole game if they can, and he said unless a guy fouls a ball off of his shin, that changes everything, and that's exactly what Mondesi did.
Ooh, man, it hurts, especially a fastball like that. And you know, so Mondesi was probably one of the players that wanted to play a day game after a night game, which is tomorrow's a 1 o'clock game, and Matheny might be right. He may not make the lineup tomorrow. Those will last you a few days, those bone bruises. So typically they come right back in there again, let you swing at a pitch like that again.
Catch is made in center field by Tucker. Take that back. That's Miles Straw who is in center field. So a line out to center and a routine fly ball to center field, and there are 2 down for Cy Snead in the 6th inning. So Hunter Dozier, who had a couple of strikeouts against Lance McCullers. That's up the right field line and twisting foul into that netting. Royals extended the netting from the far ends of the dugouts all the way to the foul poles. And this is the 2nd time that the Royals have gone above and beyond what Major League Baseball has recommended for expanded netting to protect the fans in the lower bowl.
It's a wonderful job they did. It's beautiful. Next year, hopefully, the fans will be packed in here and they can sit there and eat their popcorn and read their phones and not worry about getting hit by a foul ball.
3 up, 3 down for Cy Snead in the bottom of the 6th inning. The Astros lead 5-1. Well, there he is, Bobby Witt Jr., the Royals' 1st-round pick. We were talking about him earlier tonight. He is in there at shortstop among other changes made by Mike Matheny, including Greg Holland taking over for Tyler Zuber, who was very impressive in the 6th inning. The Astros have also made several changes. This is center fielder Miles Straw. So there's Greg Holland's career totals, 206 saves, 145 with the Royals, which is 4th all time.
Fantastic. Have a veteran with the success he's had in this organization to lead these young guys is a beautiful thing. His fastball looks good. It's looked good in the spring since he joined the Royals, and then in the summer he's done a fine job working his fastball, slider, occasional split finger.
And that is into right field, and in pursuit is Franchy Cordero, who the Royals just acquired in a trade with San Diego that sent Tim Hill to the Padres. So he's one of the changes in this top of the 7th inning.
Yeah, and you can always use another athlete like Franchy. He can play any of the outfield spots, center field as well. He's got good speed, very good athleticism, and he can swing a mean bat.
This is Nick Tanalou. So he's batting for Jose Altuve. Altuve was 0 for 3 against Mike Montgomery and Kevin McCarthy. Pulled foul off to the third base side. Other changes in this inning for the Royals. There's Matt Reynolds, who is taking over at second base. He had been on the injured list, so he is recently activated. And Bubba Starling, who looked good in Arizona, he's looked good here in Kansas City, and he is in center field. Fouled away, and we have a new catcher. MJ Melendez has taken over behind the plate.
He's got incredible catching skills. He's got a good throwing arm, very accurate, and his bat's coming along. He had a little bit of a tough time last season, but he's made some improvements over the winter and into the spring and summer now.
1-2 on Nick Tanalou. The Astros will play here tonight and tomorrow, then they'll head back to Houston. So these are their only big stadium inter-squad games. The Royals will move on to St. Louis for a late afternoon game on Wednesday, and then head to Cleveland to begin the regular season.
See that gentleman with his elbows on the rail there? That's Chris Spire, longtime Major League shortstop and a longtime coach and one of Dusty Baker's best buddies, and he was able to bring him to the Astros with him. It's the only coach that Dusty's bringing with him. The rest of the Astros coaches are all the same as the previous year.
Now, I don't know how social distancing applies here, but his great nephew is Royals pitcher Gabe Spire.
How about that? That's right. He's a left-hander and a good-looking lefty.
Last year, Greg Holland pitched in 40 games for Arizona. He had 17 saves and then was replaced as closer in July. That's up into the twilight, and Bubba Starling is on it, and there is one out.
Wherever you run or walk, let's be KC together. Take part in the Royals Charities virtual 5 and 10K on August 1st. All participants will receive a KC Together t-shirt, race bib, headband, and no-touch multi-tool mailed directly to you. 5K registration is $30 and 10K registration is $40. Register and find digital printable resources including finishers certificates and training guides at royals.com/run.
Here's Abraham Toro batting for Alex Bregman. Since he left the Royals, and remember Greg Holland blew out his elbow at the end of the 2015 season, so he was part of the celebration, but he was not on the World Series roster. He had a big brace on his right arm after having Tommy John surgery. Straw heads for third, and Franco goes into protect mode as that throw is off the line.
Straw measured him up, had 2 or 3 pitches before that. Was in there with no problem. Yeah, Holland, he'll take the World Series ring, but he'd rather be a participant.
Yep.
He's a gamer.
He missed all of 2016 recovering from Tommy John surgery.
And he knows how to get hitters out. Fastball rushes up there. He's not going to go mid-90s, but he's sneaky. He places the ball well, hides it well.
Do you remember his return to Kauffman Stadium in 2017 with the Rockies?
I do. I'm mixing it up with Soria's return, but I think we got him.
Eric Hosmer hit a walk-off home run just inside the right field foul pole. Remember that?
Same way they did Joaquim Soria. I remember. Ooh, good spot.
So the Rockies in 2017, he pitched well. He was the National League Comeback Player of the Year. He was with Mike Matheny for part of the 2018 season in St. Louis. He also pitched with the Nationals in 2018, Arizona last year. Ooh. There's a strikeout, and he was so moved by that walk-off home run by Eric Hosmer here at Kauffman Stadium that he is wearing Hosmer's number now.
That's a good gesture. How about it? A lot of fun. Look at the slider. Look at the movement on that. Had some good downward action. That almost has the break of a curveball, but that's one of the reasons why he'll be so effective is his knowledge, his veteran savvy, and how to get guys out. And by the way, doesn't look like there's any gray in that beard. He's still got some left.
Runner coming to the plate and safe. So Miles Straw, who stole third, comes down from third. Didn't get very far from Melendez, but Straw got a very good jump. He was right on it.
Yeah, he did. And, you know, you come in to run like that. I mean, it's a good opportunity for you to show veteran manager Dusty Baker what you can do. And speed's a big part of it. You know, I know the Astros rely on power, but especially late in games, get a guy in a scoring position just like he did, is able to steal a base. It's an important part of the short 60-game season this year will be a little small ball.
And if you like to score along officially, that was a wild pitch. Lifted to center field, and Bubba Starling will bring it down. So the Astros had a run in the 7th inning, and their lead is 6-1.
Early, book your big event at the K, including on opening day. Whether it's 20 tickets to a game or a private luxury suite, the Royals have your group covered. Email group sales at royals.com or call 816-504-4040 option 4 for all the details. Oh, man, he timed that one just right. What a rip. Ball might have hit the freeway up there. I'm not sure. Look at that. He just missed it.
This is Cy Snead's second inning. He got the Royals in order in the 6th, all outs in the air, and there's a called third strike with a fastball. And that's 7 strikeouts for Astros pitching tonight.
He just snuck this piece of cheese right by him there. Look at that. That's a good spot. Located him. It kind of shocked him. Rushed up on him at 94.
And here's MJ Melendez. His first at bat. Salvador Perez homered in the 4th, and that is the only Royals run so far tonight. Melendez was the Royals' 2nd round pick in 2017 out of high school in Miami. And on one hand, he had a very rough year last year offensively. He had 163 at Wilmington, but it didn't affect him behind the plate. He threw out 60% of runners trying to steal. 60.
What? I've never heard of that.
He was
mark.
the minor league defensive player of the year, and that was the highest percentage in all of the minor leagues.
Wow.
So that batting average is tough to swallow, but I'm sure he impressed the coaching staff that he didn't let that carry over into his defense.
Yeah, and that's important, especially for a young player. And I remember being a shortstop and signing at 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I kept hearing coaches, after striking out for the 3rd time that night, a coach would yell, "Don't take it out to your defense." I remember hearing that so many times. And there's a lot of truth to that. You can't hang your head out there. You've got to be able to, when you play a prominent position like a catcher or a shortstop, center fielder, you cannot take that failure from the plate out to the defense, and obviously he did not. That's tremendous. That's awesome. High G's there. But, you know, it's pretty impressive, this Cy Snead kid. You know, they got Verlander, Greinke, McCullers, and Josh James. They're their starters. They're 4 starters. They're scheduled to start 51 of their 60 games. But you know, they'll use some other candidates to use, you know, to make up some of those games, and Cy Snead could be one of them. He's mentioned another kid named Framber Valdez, who's got a good live arm, and Christian Javier. There's a couple of good young prospects that might step in, but the Astros are pretty well stocked with pitching for this season. Cy Snead's basically 2 pitches. He will mix in a little slider, but he's a fastball split finger guy.
Lance McCullers Jr. went the first 5 and gave up 1 run, and now Snead is retired 5 in a row. Back through the middle, and that's the second baseman Tanaloo. And Cy Snead has 2 perfect innings as we move to the 8th at Kauffman Stadium. Houston leads 6-1. Game may not be express written consent of the Kansas City Royals. Exhibition game number 1. Houston leads 6-1. The Royals will play tomorrow at 1 here on Fox Sports Kansas City against Houston, and then 3 o'clock Wednesday afternoon in St. Louis. Brett Phillips has taken over in left field, so Michael Franco is the only starter that's still in there. He's over at 3rd. And here's Heath Fillmyer on in relief of Greg Holland. These are his combined numbers 2018 and 2019 with the Royals.
He's gotten a lot of great experience. There's no question in the last couple of seasons. Fillmyer, he's got a nice fastball. He's firm. It runs pretty good up on the right-handed hitters. Away to lefties, he's got a slider curve change. Got 4 pitches. And he's a tough competitor.
Last year, Phil Meyer pitched 12 games for the Royals, and then he had to deal with some injury issues. He missed 7 weeks in the minor leagues. And he's a pitcher that Mike Matheny can use in a variety of different roles. And he is tough. Remember that game here against the Cubs a couple of years ago? I think Anthony Rizzo was leading off and hit a bullet off of his leg, and he could barely walk. And I think that was the only hit he gave up in the next 7 innings after that.
He stayed in the game. I remember. He's tough.
This is Taylor Jones, who had taken over at first base for Gurriel. This will be his first at bat. The Astros got 1 in the first on Bregman's double. Reddick and Maldonado both hit 2-run home runs in the fourth. Straw scored on a wild pitch in the 7th. That's off the right field line and foul. The Royals' run was a home run by Salvador Perez in the 4th. One and one. Taylor Jones was at AAA Round Rock last year, and he had 22 home runs and drove in 84. And hit 291. There's Bobby Wood Jr. And a strike over to McBroom. So 1 down in the 8th. Let's go to Joel.
Ryan, we got to remember this is a spring training game, which means players, when they come out of the game, are available for interviews. So I was just on a Zoom call with Salvador Perez, and he says, hey, it's been since 2018. I feel great. You know how much I love to play baseball. He said he put that mask on right when he was done and came out. He said, I feel great at the plate. I feel great behind the plate. And he said, yes, this is different not having fans in the stands, but we owe it to the fans. We know how many people have been waiting for this and are watching at home. He said, I'm always going to bring the energy, and I'm trying to fire everyone up in the dugout.
Energy giver. Gotta love that. Salvy's back.
And I think last year affected him more than he was expecting. We knew that it would be painful for him to be away from the team, or not away from the team, but not being able to play. And he was around early in the season, and then he just went home to Miami for a while. It was just too painful for him. So he did a lot of recovery away from the team, and then he was back again at the end of the season. And you can tell when he's around.
Oh, for sure.
Lined over Bobby Wood Jr., and that's Jack Mayfield, who's on with 1 out.
Looked like a little two-seam fastball that stayed up. Phil Meyer, when he's going good, he's got some good sink to his fastball, but that one just stayed up a tad, and he's able to get the barrel on it.
And now Drew Ferguson will hit for the first time. So Dusty Baker has taken all of his regulars out, or at least his starters tonight. I said that Franco is the only starter that's still in there. McBroom's over at first base, but Mike Matheny has changed his catcher, his entire outfield, and his middle infield. McBroom will give it a look. It's back into the crowd. We've seen a lot more of Heath Fillmyer, but when the Royals traded Ryan Buchter and Brandon Moss to the A's before the 2018 season, the name that came up more often was Jesse Hahn. And Jesse Hahn, shortly after becoming a Royal in the 2018 season, injured his elbow and needed surgery, and he's been a name that's come up quite a bit as far as Mike Matheny and Cal Elger trying to rebuild that back end of the bullpen, which gave the Royals a lot of trouble, especially early the last 2 seasons. The Royals gave some veterans who had had some success in the past a chance to close out some games in both 2018 and 2019, and it just didn't work. The Royals had a 9-game losing streak in April 2 years ago. They had a 10-game losing streak in April last year. So we may see the Jesse Hahn that the Royals thought they were going to get a couple of years ago.
That's right. You know, over 3/4 of those losses, the Royals had the lead going in late in the games. Just have to have the ability to shut games down, and that's the name of the game, especially in the 60-game sprint race.
0-2. Nope, I take that back. That is a strikeout. And 2 down in the 8th inning.
Fillmyer, there you go. There's that nice little breaker.
The number 2. Prove our point, the Royals had 53 blown leads last year, which was the most in the major leagues.
Yeah. Wow.
Kyle Tucker with a runner at first base and 2 down.
This kid Kyle Tucker, he's got a nice future. He's put up some great numbers in AAA over the last several years, and you can see what he did last season, but he might get some more at bats this year without Yordan Alvarez, their rookie of the year last year. He might get some more at bats as Alvarez still hasn't reported to the Astros.
In shallow right field, Reynolds didn't quite get him. So the little bobble may have hurt him, but he went a long way out into right field. Even with the shift, he still had to go back. So Mayfield goes to second, and the Astros have 2 on with 2 out.
Yeah, that ball was laced. Should have been a clean single, but out of nowhere. Reynolds showing some good hands and good range. Slight bobble probably kept him from getting the out, but still able to shuffle it and make the play close.
Dustin Garneau with 2 on and 2 out. And he rolls it out to Franco. He'll go to third for the force on Mayfield, and that's the inning. So Fillmyer gives up a couple of hits, but no runs. It's still 6-1 Houston to the bottom of the 8th.
It's back. The MLB app is the only place to get all your baseball action. In-game video highlights, breaking news, player updates, stats, leaderboards, standings, game, pitch, live pitch by pitch, and much more. Download MLB app today, the official app of Major League Baseball.
Cal Eldred has a chat with Heath Philmeyer, who pitched a scoreless 8th inning. Michael Franco, Ryan McBroom, and Matt Reynolds are coming up. Cy Sneed is still in there. The Astros have pitched very well tonight. Lance McCullers Jr. and Sneed have given up 1 run, 4 hits in 7 innings. And Sneed came on in the 6th, and he has 2 perfect innings. Of the 4 hits tonight, Michael Franco has 1. He had an error, a throwing error on a rather routine ground ball in the 4th inning, which resulted in 4 unearned runs charged to Mike Montgomery in the 4th inning. That's the Astros' biggest inning tonight.
Close, borderline pitch. I tell you, Cy Sneed, 6'4", 190. He's tall and thin and has some nice life to his fastball. That pitch has been setting up his split finger.
Chop to third, and Toro makes the play over to Jones. 1 down.
Let's take a little peek at Cy Sneed. Check him out. Very calm. I love his demeanor on the mound. I mean, you can't tell if he's going good or bad, but look at that. That fastball's got life and it's sneaky. And hitters, that ball's on you before you can do anything to it. Put a good swing on it. And then he's got a good split finger that looks like a curveball. Drops off the table. Good off-speed pitch to keep him off balance. Looks good.
His birth name is Cy Sneed. That's not a nickname. Cy R. Sneed. Cy, his middle name is just R. period. Cy R. Sneed.
That is a big league name. And he looks tonight like he's got big league stuff.
Oh, 2 on Ryan McBroom. He is 1 for 2. No swing. The 2 Irish, if you will, Ryans were battling in spring training for first base. Ryan McBroom and Ryan O'Hearn, and it was even in Arizona. Both swung the bat very well. McBroom adds the flexibility in that he can play the outfield. Up the middle and into center field. That's McBroom's 2nd hit. And then O'Hearn was on the injured list with COVID-19, but he's back with the club now.
Check out McBroom. Now he's got a nice little soft step forward, but he's staying with that little breaking ball. He's out front. You can tell how he just stuck that. He really used a nice bottom hand to guide the bat through the middle, and he'll come off for a pinch runner now.
And that'll be Nick Prado, who will take over at first base.
He's a young Eric Hosmer with the glove at first. Very smooth fielder is Prado.
He was the Royals' 1st-round pick in 2017 out of high school in Southern California. We were talking about how MJ Melendez struggled last year at Wilmington, but was outstanding defensively. Reynolds lifts it to right, and Ferguson is back, and he'll make the play for the 2nd out. It's been well known ever since Dayton Moore took over as general manager that the Royals try to win in the minor leagues. And you'd be surprised how many organizations want to win but don't really try to win. It's more about the individual players developing, and you could debate that all night long. But the Royals have had a lot of success winning in the minor leagues. And it's worth pointing out that with perhaps the 3 best offensive prospects that the Royals have in the lower tiers of the minor leagues, Nick Prado, MJ Melendez, and Sully Matias all had off years last year, way off offensively. Matias had some injuries. They still won the league. So their individual numbers weren't very good, but they still found a way to win.
And that's the bottom line in professional sports. And that's what's impressed me with Dayton Moore since I was blessed to get this opportunity to be a broadcaster here in 2012. And I remember coming over here, Dayton he talked about, we want to win. We want to win, and we're going to win. Probably we should be ready in 2014. And wasn't he right? Oh!
Bubba Starling into deep left field, and that is gone. And Bubba Starling has just looked outstanding this spring and summer. He had a grand slam the other night here in an inter-squad, and I'll bet it's the only time in his career, Hud, that he will have a walk-off game-tying grand slam.
Yeah, exactly. They called it. Look at this high fastball at 90 now, and he obviously the way that Cy Snead's been pitching, lights out. He left the ball up out over the middle, but that's what a hitter is supposed to do. When a pitcher misses, the hitter must not miss, and Bubba did not. You could tell on contact that ball was swung on, gone.
And now Bobby Witt Jr. takes a breaking ball for a strike. He was the second overall pick in last year's draft. Third time in Royals history that a player has been taken second overall. Alex Gordon in 2005 and Mike Moustakas in 2007. Those guys did all right.
World champion players, and this kid will be too. Royals have the best young pitching in all of baseball, and it's coming real soon. Dayton Moore's job, he told our fans, was, you know, we need to build up our minor league system again, as we had to trade some players to win a World Series. You got to respect that. He pushed all of his chips in, lost a lot of the young talent they had, and what has he done the last 3 or 4 years? Exactly what he wanted to do. Build it up with some quality blue chip players, and won't be much longer, and there'll be another party here in Kansas City, believe it.
Shallow right center field, and Ferguson is over from right to make the play. The Royals hit their second home run tonight, and it's Bubba Starling driving in Nick Prado, and now it's 6-3, Houston leading. The other night in an intra-squad game, and this proves that if you do this long enough, you'll see something you've never seen before. But Bubba Starling hit a walk-off game-tying grand slam, because that's all the pitching the Royals needed that night. Right. He has a 2-run home run tonight. Eric Mejia takes over at third, and Nick Prado, who ran for Ryan McBroom, stays in at first. And now the pride of Lee Summit, Trevor Rosenthal, takes over in the 9th inning, and he fires a strike to Miles Straw.
Yep, as a healthy Trevor Rosenthal, looking really good. Look at all those saves in his career, and won't he fit nicely in that Royals bullpen at the end. He's mid to 100, mid 90s to 100. He's got good slider that he'll mix in with that, and he can spot that fastball just about wherever he wants.
.97 right over the outside edge.
Ooh.
3 pitches and 1 down.
Well, you know, going up, the hitters usually look back if they've never seen a guy before, and they look back at their hitting coach and say, well, who is this guy? What's he got? And I'm sure that they said, just look for the fastball if you can see it.
Bobby Witt Jr. And he throws out Nick Tanalou, 2 down in the 9th inning.
Houston Astros hitting coach is Alex Cintron, by the way. Troy Snitker. Usually nowadays in the modern game there's 2 hitting coaches. There's, it's 12 guys. I mean, you got a lot of hitters out there.
And guys hit more than they used to hit. I mean, they
exactly.
show up and they want early batting practice, and then they want soft toss before regular batting practice, and then batting practice, and then they want some drills after batting practice.
Oh, it's amazing. You're exactly right. And, there's just so much video work that's done, too. So, 2 hitting coaches is only logical. Got to sit in there and watch the video, break down some of the hitters' swings.
I'll be back into the seats. Abraham Toro has batted once, and he struck out in the 7th inning against Greg Holland. Prado charges. And that was a tough feed for Rosenthal, and he had to make an athletic play to reach back and get it. So 3 up, 3 down, and we'll see Franchy Cordero, the newest Royal, lead off the bottom of the 9th. It begins on Friday the 24th. The Royals will begin by playing 9 of their first 12 on the road. The home opener will be on the 31st against the White Sox. And we'll see the Cubs right away in a home and home of the first month, as well as Mike Moustakas and the Cincinnati Reds. Blake Taylor, who pitched 40 games in the minor leagues last year, will get an exhibition save opportunity as he gets the bottom of the 9th inning, and he will face Franchy Cordero, whom the Royals just acquired from the San Diego Padres in a deal that sent Tim Hill to Southern California. One ball, one strike. Franchy Cordero is from the Dominican Republic. He signed with the Padres in 2011. He spent a little time on the injured list last year with a right elbow problem. But he projects to be a big-time power hitter. He was originally signed as a shortstop, but after having some defensive troubles in the early minor leagues, was moved to the outfield about 4 years ago. He has a very strong arm to go along with that powerful swing. He is down on strikes, and there's one away in the bottom of the 9th.
See him on the side of the ball. It's going to put a little wrinkle on it. That's a slider up. Caught him looking. Cordero, if he does have any faults or any weaknesses, he does swing and miss a lot, and he's going to have to shorten up that swing and put the ball in play and utilize that good athleticism and his speed to be productive for the Royals.
Ball 1 to Jorge Soler, who has struck out 3 times. We were talking in his very first at bat that his timing isn't quite there yet. One and one.
Taylor, this young man here is 88 to 92 with his fastball. He might go a little more, a little 83. He's got a tight curveball. Jammed him.
That's the second baseman Tanalou on the shift, and now there are 2 down in the bottom of the 9th. If there is a weakness for the Houston Astros, it would be their bullpen. Joe Smith, longtime veteran sidearm righty, recently opted out because of concerns of COVID-19. Will Harris, who had some really good years for them, is no longer with the Astros. Roberto Osuna, very similar to Jacob Junis for the Royals, was recently deemed not quite ready yet, so he's not expected to be on the opening day roster. Ryan Presley will be their closer to begin the year. A couple of other guys that they were going to rely on in that bullpen, as Melendez hits one into right field. Brad Peacock and Austin Pruitt are out with injuries. So on a team that appears to be otherwise loaded, a potential weakness could be those last 9 outs.
That's a nice swing there by MJ. Able to find a hole. Left-handed hit off a lefty.
And now Kyle Isbell is going to pinch run for Melendez. It's Paul Phillips, or Brett Phillips, bats for the first time. Not to be confused with one-time Royals catcher Paul Phillips.
That's right.
Who, if I remember, and I'm making eye contact with Holtze, either his first big league hit or his first big league home run was a grand slam in Seattle in 2005.
Wow, good memory.
Sometimes those little details just kind of fall out of the sky.
Yeah, no, good job. That's quite a first homer.
Brett Phillips was married during the offseason. And his wife is the daughter of one-time Royals manager Trey Hillman.
That's right. Bree, I believe, is her name.
That'll do it. Phillips is down on strikes, and the Astros take the first of 2 exhibition games with the Royals by the final score of 6-3 as Dusty Baker salutes Mike Matheny on the other side, and we'll be right back.